Quick summary, it was 1:30 in the morning, mid-October 1991. I'd gotten a call from reporting party down there at the bottom of the image, telling me that there was a car north and west of their place on Ditch Road that headlights were on, and she was afraid they might be poaching deer. And it's an area that's absolutely loaded with deer because of its proximity to the Big Sioux River. So let's move in a little bit here. So I start my approach. I'm driving slowly because of the noise of the tires on gravel, and I park right there. Now let's move to this graphic. Get your bearings a little bit. You can see where I am in relation to the suspect car. There are 3 males and 1 female milling around the car. I purposely stopped about 20 yards behind them. I just wanted more distance. And when I turned on the red lights and the high beams, it caught one of the 3 males with a beer can in his hand. Then he chucked it up over his shoulder and landed on the road. So started off with a littering violation and kind of went from there. So what I did is I got out of my vehicle, identified myself, and I identified the litter bug guy by his clothing and told him, I need you to start walking back to my vehicle. Keep your hands where I can see them. And the other 3 actually, you stay put up by the vehicle. So the litter bug starts walking slowly from their vehicle to mine, except he wasn't alone. All 3 males were lined abreast, walking back toward my truck. I'm issuing loud, repetitive verbal commands. Stop, stop now. They didn't stop. They just kept coming. Only now it got even more complicated. Let me explain. The fat guy on the left of the line, from my perspective, the guy farthest to the left, the fat guy, was yelling, screaming profanities completely out of his mind. So I had to deal with that distraction. The skinny guy on the right of the line, he was mocking me. He had his hands up, don't shoot, don't shoot. Well, he was just saying that. He was just being an asshole because he couldn't see whether I was drawn or not. I was behind a curtain of high beam light. But I wasn't drawn. I hadn't cleared leather or anything like that. I was still issuing verbal commands, anticipating compliance. The only one who was quiet was the guy in the middle. So they keep coming toward my truck, and I'm continuing to yell verbal commands. The fat guy on the left is still screaming and profanity and calling me everything. The guy on the right, the skinny guy, is still mocking me. The only one of the 3 who wasn't saying a word was the guy in the middle, and they kept coming. At some point, you're probably wondering, well, 20 yards apart, okay, you had time to get in your truck, back up, disengage, create distance, and then communicate over the PA system. Yeah, that's what I should have done, but I didn't. Now you see the problem. I was stuck on my feet, posted beside my truck, yelling loud, repetitive verbal commands to 3 guys who weren't stopping for shit. And I kept issuing verbal commands. They kept coming. I kept issuing verbal commands. My brain said they're going to stop one of these times, but they didn't. I let them walk right up to the front of my truck. That was the only time during this whole fiasco that they actually stopped. They were only 6 feet from me. They didn't have to shoot me, guys. All they had to do was bum rush me. They didn't, but they could have. And the reason they could have is because I gave them an opportunity to do it. Finally, I yelled, I know there's an effing gun here and you need to step the F back. And they still didn't listen. Oh, I want to mention that they weren't standing in front of my truck. From my perspective, they were off to the left. So they weren't in the bright lights. They were in that gray washed out area. And I was so preoccupied with what was going on. Remember the quiet guy in the middle? Amidst all this chaos and all the mistakes I made, I never saw him reach for the front of his waistband. I never saw him draw the pistol from the front of his waistband. I didn't know that he had a gun in his hand just 6 feet away until he bent down and laid the gun on the ground between his feet. Believe it or not, this story is far from over. And I'll be sure to cover that in part 3 of how I almost bought the farm. Thanks, guys.